Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Real Big Ten Football Talk +1 with Chris. Welcome to Week 12 of the 2018 college football season. And Week 12, as we all know in the past, does not host high-profile, oh my god, those two teams are playing type of matchups. But there are some sneaky good games out there this week. So we are going to look at one of them here, pitting the number 8 Ohio State Buckeyes, 9-1, 6-1 in Big Ten play, at the Terrapins of Maryland, is sitting at 5-5, 3-4 in Big Ten play. Now you might be asking yourselves, well, Chris, why are you doing a game like this? This is obviously an overmatched, not a hyped up game at all. Well, to answer that question, again, this is Week 12. Kind of desperate to get any sort of marquee games at this point. Not to say Maryland isn't a good team, but they have been struggling. But the reason I do this game is also because this could be closer than a lot of people think. Maryland has done some good things this year, and they've had some bad things happen to them this year. They've had their fair share of struggles along the way. I'm not disputing that at all. But Ohio State is also going to be... There is a potential that Ohio State could look past this team completely to next week, which is when they play the big game against Michigan Wolverines. So, Maryland could take advantage of that and catch Ohio State napping and looking past them. That has happened in the past with this Ohio State team. Years ago, they used to constantly be looking past Illinois to look to Michigan. Back when Illinois and Ohio State played each other more often than they do now. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this matchup itself. Who have they played and who have they beaten? Ohio State had, as we've talked about before, because I've done quite a few Ohio State games so far on this channel. We'll go through them real quick. Oregon State 77-31, Rutgers 52-3, the 15th ranked at the time TCU Horned Frogs 40-28, the Tulane Green Wave, I believe is what their mascot is. I apologize if it's not. 49-6 at the Nittany Lions of Penn State 27-26, Indiana 49-26, Minnesota 30-14. Bad loss at Purdue a few weeks ago, 49-20. Nebraska, honestly, not as lackluster win as I thought, considering what Nebraska did this past weekend. 36-31. And, of course, the big win so far, in my opinion, for Ohio State, since Penn State has struggled since they played the Buckeyes, Michigan State 26-6. We'll be looking at that in Ohio State's recent marquee win. Very impressive win for the Buckeyes, and not pretty much kind of what I was expecting, because Michigan State's offense is just so bad, and it showed in that game. They couldn't complete a pass, couldn't convert on third down, and couldn't get their running game going. Michigan State's defense did well to shut down Ohio State's offense for the most part, but Michigan State just couldn't score any points. That was the problem. They even gave up a safety. I believe that was the third quarter, which I still think is weird. I get it. They had 5 consecutive drives in a row, start inside their own 10. I get it. They wanted to reverse the field a little bit. But I'm never a fan of giving up points. And obviously they give up points on that. You can see the snap went over the punter's head and out of the back of the end zone. That was planned. There's no way it wasn't. I don't really understand it. But either way, looking at Maryland, we've done them a few times on this show, so I won't look at each win too closely. That win against Texas 34-29 was an impressive win on opening weekend, since Texas was ranked 24th at the time. Looking at what Texas has done since, a really good win at Bowling Green 45-14. Very bad loss against Temple at home 35-14. They followed it up with a good win against Minnesota, 42-13. At Michigan, a bad loss because they just looked bad in that game, 42-21. Rutgers, 34-7, not bad. At Iowa, another horrible loss, got shut out, 23-0. Against Illinois, 63-33, scored 63 points. That's great, but he gave up 33 points. That is the game we will be looking at for Maryland here in a minute. Michigan State lost 24-3. Again, as we talked about, Michigan State didn't have a great offense, so giving up 24 points to a mediocre offense does show cause for concern, in my opinion, for Maryland. And they lost to just a gut-wrenching loss to Indiana, 34-32. Maryland had every opportunity to win that game in the fourth, and they just couldn't quite pull it out. Not a bad loss, but a gut-wrenching loss for Maryland. Looking at Ohio State, since they are the visiting team, they did win. They did beat a very talented Michigan State defense last week. 26-6. First downs, 21 for Ohio State. Converted on 33.3% of their third downs. That's 6 of 18. Not bad considering Michigan State's defense. That's why I have stats there a little bit low in green, because you have to remember the defense that Ohio State was playing against. Rushing yards, 120. No one gets more than 100 yards on Michigan State this year. Ohio State did it. Impressive. 227 yards to the air. Not great, considering Michigan State didn't have a great passing defense. 24-39 passing was Dwayne Haskins. 1 touchdown thrown. 0 picks. Excellent performance by Dwayne Haskins. Total yards, 347. Not bad, considering, again, the defense they were playing. And Ohio State did well in the penalty department, only committing 4 penalties for 30 yards. 1 turnover. And time of possession dominated the Spartans at 37 minutes and 29 seconds. That Spartans defense was on the field a long time, and I still give them props for being able to handle Ohio State as well as they did. First downs, Michigan State only had 12.5% on third down, 2 of 16. Dominant performance by Ohio State's defense. Rushing yards, 54 for Michigan State. Quite awful. And 220 yards passing. Incredibly dominant for Ohio State. It's 274 total yards given up. 11 of 28 passing. And 0 touchdowns and 1 interception thrown for those Michigan State quarterbacks. Michigan State did also commit 7 penalties for 46 yards. And did turn the ball over 3 times. Michigan State's offense was only on the field for 22 minutes and 31 seconds. That's dominance for Ohio State, and that's cause for concern if I'm a Spartans fan going forward. Because Ohio State is not a dominant defense, but Michigan State's offense is just that bad, unfortunately, for them. Looking at Maryland, again, as we talked about before, looking at that Illinois win. That was their most recent win in general, unfortunately, for them, 3 weeks ago. They did give up 20 first downs to Illinois, 40% third down percentage, 6 of 15, 232 yards. Maryland did give up on the ground to a quite weak Illinois team, 261 yards to the air, 14 of 32 passing. That's good as far as completion percentage. 2 passing touchdowns to 1 interception thrown, 493 total yards given up to an Illinois team that is, as it shows, 3-4 when they played them. Illinois did only commit 2 penalties for 25 yards. Again, it's in orange because Maryland can't really control that. And Illinois did turn the ball over once to Maryland, 0. That is impressive. Illinois was only on the field for 25 minutes and 45 seconds. Once again, quite impressive for Maryland's defense. That's getting off the field when you need to. For Maryland on offense, pretty much quite dominant, all in green except the penalties we'll talk about in a minute. 30 first downs, 80% third down efficiency, 12 of 15. That is a staggering stat. I am shocked. 431 yards on the ground. Again, 431 yards on the ground. And if you score 63 points, obviously you're going to look impressive on offense. But that is dominance right there on the line of scrimmage for Maryland. 281 yards through the air. It's impressive considering Kasim Hill has not done too well throwing the football this year. 13 of 21 passing collectively. 3 passing touchdowns to 0 interceptions thrown. 712 yards of offense. That's sheer dominance. The only concern for Maryland is, and it's been this way all year, penalties can kill you. 7 penalties for 85 yards. That's something that needs to change this week against Ohio State, or you will lose miserably. 0 turnovers, and you were on the field for 34 minutes and 15 seconds. Quite impressive for Maryland. Looking forward, the last 4, because these teams only play each other 4 times, honestly. 27, or actually, all 4 of these have been dominated by Ohio State. I don't really need to elaborate too much. Last year, 62-14, 62-3, 49-28, and 52-24. Maryland has not done well against Ohio State, to be blunt. They have done horrible. And why may this year be any different, you might ask? Well, like I said, Ohio State could also look past this Maryland team. And this Maryland team is capable. Their offense is okay. Their defense is okay. And Ohio State, again, might just look past this game to Michigan because they are feeling good about beating Michigan State last weekend, but they might be feeling too good, just like Purdue did when they played against Michigan State the week after they beat Ohio State and lost 23-13. It can happen. Offensive efficiency, Ohio State's all in green, 31 minutes, time of possession per game, 527.2 total offense. That is 8th nationally. 46.3% third down efficiency. That is 18th. Plus 6 turnover margin. That's 19th nationally. Time of possession for Maryland. You do not stay on the field long enough to get your offense going. At 28 minutes per game, that is less than half the game. For you math folks out there. Total offense, 366.3 yards per game. What offense, I ask, with that kind of a stat? That is 99th nationally. 41.7% on third down. That's not bad at 44th. But where Maryland does excel is they don't turn the ball over very much. And they do force their fair share of turnovers. At a plus 6 turnover margin for them again. That is, of course, like we already said, 19th nationally. Looking at red zone efficiency, Ohio State does get inside the 20 quite often. At 4.6, that is 12th nationally. But they don't do a whole great deal with it when they get it inside the 20. At 58.6% touchdown percentage. Only 73.9% they are scoring inside the 20. That is less than 3/4 of the time, and that is 122nd nationally. Maryland, you don't get inside the 20 very often, but you do take advantage of your trips when you do. But you've only gotten inside the 20 on average 2.4 times. That is 122nd nationally. But you are at 66.6% touchdown percentage, 100% red zone scoring percentage. That is, of course, first nationally. How can it not be? But you need to get inside the 20 more often. Terrapins. Passing offense, Ohio State, once again, mostly in the green, 69.8% completion percentage. That is second nationally. 354.9 yards per game through the air. That is third nationally. It's actually only behind the two air raid offenses in today's day and age, which is Texas Tech and Washington State. Very impressive considering Ohio State is not an air raid offense, but Dwayne Haskins has been that dominant. Sacks allowed per game, 1.5. That is 32nd nationally. Not bad, not great, but honestly is not horrible considering you're only giving up 1.5 sacks per game. That's not bad. Haskins only thrown 6 picks this year. Again, not bad. Maryland, your completion percentage is horrible at 51% per game. That is 116th nationally. Passing per game, 131.4 yards. Like I said, Kasim Hill does not throw the ball very often. When he does, he's not accurate. That is 124th nationally in passing per game. Sacks allowed, 2, considering they don't pass the ball very often. And he's still getting hit twice per game on average. That's 56th nationally, but that's also cause for concern in my opinion. But Hill at least has only thrown 5 picks this year, so that's not bad. And that'll keep you in games when you're consistently not turning the ball over. And if you can force turnovers on defense. Looking at rushing, Ohio State, not bad on all sides, but not great either. At 172.3 yards per game on the ground, that is 61st nationally. Rushing yards allowed, 143.5, that is 44th nationally. Quite a downtick compared to the last few years for the Buckeyes. Maryland, quite impressive running the football at 234.9 yards per game. That is 18th nationally, but you do give up far too many yards on the ground at 161.4 yards per game. That is 64th nationally. Cause for concern for Maryland. Passing defense, Ohio State, not bad in the top half. Horrible in the second half of the board there. Completion percentage allowed, 52.96%. That is 15th nationally. Quite impressive. Sacks per game, 2.7. That is 27th nationally. Again, quite good. Interceptions gained, that is a question mark. And that is definitely cause for concern at 7. That is 71st nationally. And passing yards per game, you give far too many yards to the air, Ohio State at 241.5 yards per game. That is 81st nationally. Quite bad. For Maryland, completion percentage allowed, again, quite impressive at 51.96%. That is 8th nationally. Sacks per game, Maryland, you need to get after the quarterback more often to give yourselves a better chance to win some of these games. You're only sacking the quarterback on average 1.5 times per game. That is 108th nationally. Interceptions gained, quite impressive at 17. That is first nationally. Passing yards allowed per game, only 181.8 yards. That is 18th nationally. But you have not played many great passing teams. So, take that with a grain of salt if you're an Ohio State fan looking at that stat of Maryland. Total defensive efficiency, Ohio State in the yellow for the most part. All causes for concern, but not bad. Turnovers gained at 17, that is 39th nationally. Total defense, 385, that is 56th. That is definitely on the high side of my little yellow ink here. I almost considered making it red, because that is cause for concern, considering you haven't played a whole lot of great offenses this year. Third down percentage allowed. That Penn State game definitely helped that percentage, and the Michigan State game. But be that as it may, you've still only given up on average 30.1% third down per game. That is 12th nationally. Quite dominant. For Maryland, turnovers gained 19. That is 16th nationally. Those 17 interceptions help that stat. Total defense, 343.2 yards per game. That is 30th. I almost made that green because that is still quite good, but it's still 30th, so not in the top 29. That's kind of my cutoff. Third down percentage allowed per game, 36.7%. That is 44th nationally. That may come back to bite Maryland since they're playing against a team in Ohio State that does consistently convert on third down quite often. Looking at offensive scoring, Ohio State quite dominant in all aspects of it. 40.6 points scored on average per game. That is 9th nationally. 9.9 points Ohio State scores in the first quarter. That is 14th nationally. And in the fourth, Ohio State does do a good job of shutting the door, scoring at 11.6 points per game in the fourth. That is 5th nationally. That is getting clutch points when it counts. That has helped Ohio State win some of the close games they have against TCU and Penn State, to name two. Excuse me. For Maryland, scoring per game, okay. 28.8 points, 60th. Not atrocious, but not great. You definitely are going to need to get that number up when you're playing against Ohio State. First quarter scoring, 6.5 points scored in the first. That is 55th nationally for Maryland. You need to come out of the gate hotter than that to play against a good Ohio State team. Fourth quarter score in Maryland, you do a good job of scoring in the fourth yourselves at 8.9 points. That is 26th nationally. But you've got to score more in the second and third quarter. You have to be a more complete team. Ask Indiana how that works out when you can't score in the second half. Or in the first, whichever case may be. You need to be a full four-quarter team to beat Ohio State. And you haven't done that so far this year, Maryland, statistically. Defensive scoring, again, in the green for the most part for Ohio State. Total points allowed per game, 22 points. That is 28th nationally. But Ohio State does have a tendency to give up a few too many points in the first quarter at 4.1 points per game. That is 30th nationally. Fourth quarter, Ohio State does an excellent job of shutting the door at only allowing 5.1 points in the fourth. That is 23rd nationally. Maryland, you are giving up a few too many points at 25.4 per game. That is 51st nationally. But you do a good job of coming out of the gate, shutting down those opposing offenses and shutting them down in the fourth quarter when it counts. First quarter, you're only allowing 4 points per game. That's 28th. Better than Ohio State by a tenth of a point. Fourth quarter scoring allowed per game, you do give up a little bit more than Ohio State, but still only 5.3 points. That is 28th nationally. Quite impressive for Maryland. But you do need to do a better job of giving up less points overall to a team in Ohio State that scores points and scores them in bunches. Self-imposed errors. This is another new slide that I've added this week. Well, not another. This is a new slide that I've added this week. I haven't talked about penalties much overall, but I do think they're important because it can change the course of the game for you. Like I said, and I think that Purdue-Ohio State recap video or whatever, I said this at some point anyway, that really you want to look at 3 aspects of the game to determine whether a team won or lost. Penalties, their down conversion, time of possession, so really 4, and the turnover battle. And these 2 stats here I want to talk about because these 2 teams do struggle with penalties. Ohio State 7.6 committed per game, that is 107th nationally. 68.3 yards on average per game you give up, you leave on the field, Ohio State. And for Maryland, 8.4 penalties committed per game. That is 123rd nationally. And you give up, on average, 80.3 yards on the field that no one can use, Maryland. You could have used some of those yards against Indiana last week. Turnovers lost, 11 for Ohio State. That's not bad at 23rd nationally. Just over 1 per game on average. That's not bad. Maryland, 13 turnovers lost. That's not great, not bad. You do a decent job holding on to the ball, and that is 43rd nationally. Again, neat little tidbits. This, again, they've only played each other 4 times, so you don't really have a whole lot of history to talk about here. They did play each other for the first time in 2014, where Ohio State did win that matchup in College Park, 52-24. The 2 teams, like I said, only started playing each other when Maryland entered the Big Ten in 2014. And Ohio State has dominated the series at 4-0-0. Ohio State's all-time win-loss tie record is 907, 325 losses, and 53 ties. Maryland's all-time win-loss tie record is 649 wins, 594 losses, 43 ties. Ohio State has always been ranked in each matchup, and Maryland has never been ranked entering this matchup. Thought that was kind of interesting. Keys to the game for both teams. Ohio State wins if they establish the running game early with runs right up the middle to exert dominance and demoralize that Maryland defensive line. Be careful with too many passes as Maryland is ranked first in interceptions gained. Dwayne Haskins, you need to rely more on your running backs and less on your arm. Shut down Maryland's running game and force Kasim Hill to win with his arm. That is not done well. Maryland has not done well when he has to throw the ball too much. Ohio State, you need to win the field position battle like you did against Michigan State. Don't sell for 3 points inside the 20. Score 6 or force Maryland into a long field. If you face 4th down inside the 20, go for it consistently inside the 20 on 4th down. Force Maryland to march up the field, march up the field if you can't get it on 4th down inside the 20. Maryland, you must force turnovers to give your offense consistently a short field to work with. Develop a balanced offensive attack. You must establish a running game through runs around the outside, even reverses to give your running back some space. I don't think you go run up the middle very much against a tough Ohio State defensive line. You have to keep pressure on Dwayne Haskins by disguising coverages to confuse him and force him into making mistakes. This is his first full year. A lot of people forget that. You have to make him feel more like a freshman than he has this year. Although he's a sophomore, but you get the point. You also have to shut down that running game. Let Purdue be an example of how to do it. Force Haskins to throw the ball 50 to 60 times and take advantage of his miscues by getting interceptions. Something else I couldn't mention because there's too many things to talk about that Maryland has to do to win, but you have to stop committing the penalties as much. You did well against Illinois. You only committed 4 penalties. You've got to do that against Ohio State. You can't beat yourselves. If you start beating yourselves, Ohio State's going to take advantage. You've got to be careful if you're Maryland. Who to pick? Honestly, I didn't have to think too much about this game, but like I said, Maryland fans, this game can be closer, and you can even win this game if you play a good, well-disciplined game, don't turn the ball over, convert on 3rd down, get inside the 20, and you've done well when you get inside the 20 this year anyway, and you have to keep the pressure on Dwayne Haskins. But I don't believe you're capable of doing that. I think Maryland, you've been too stricken with injuries and just So many things are rolling around your coaching staff. I feel bad for you. I do. It can't be an easy thing to deal with and play football. But I think you're going to lose to a superior team in Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State will look past you as much as they might otherwise. I do believe they'll shut the door in the fourth quarter. I think this game could even be pretty close at the half. Maybe even a 28-21 advantage for Ohio State. But I don't think Maryland will score much in the second half. And I think Ohio State will come out of the gate in the second half like they have most of the year. Play well. And I do think Ohio State will dominate this Maryland team 49-28. That's all I have time for this week. Thank you for watching once again. Please like, share, or subscribe if you do like my content. Please let me know in the comment section below why you liked it. If you have any questions, maybe you have, I can't think. Maybe you have requests for a game that you might want me to do. I don't do a whole lot. I don't really have a whole lot planned for this week. So if you have any requests of games you might want me to talk about, please let me know in the comment section. Let me know how I'm doing in the comment section. If you don't like my content, please hit the thumbs down and let me know why, so I can help to enhance your viewing experience. Once again, thanks for stopping by.